Welcome to the Creative Blood Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Conway. If you've ever wanted a backstage pass into the world of creativity from the best in the business, this one's for you. Get ready to hear genuine conversations with the artists, entrepreneurs, and creative minds who know no boundaries. Here we go.
I don't think every single person, especially creative, wants to wake up in the morning and manage people. I think there are creatives that want to create.
That's Claude Silver, a one-off in every direction inside the world of advertising. Her journey as a heart-led powerhouse has been built through an eclectic mix of life chapters, including project management in Silicon Valley's soaring dot-com era, heading up digital strategy at world-renowned agency Publicis, as well as a 93-day off-grid wilderness course and intuitive studies program, all of which serve her all day, every day. Claude's current role as Chief Heart Officer at VaynerMedia, the global full-service digital agency with offices in New York, LA, London and Singapore, was created specifically for her. From their New York HQ, she fearlessly supports over 800 employees and, as she describes it, is in touch with the heartbeat of every single person in the company. This episode drives a much bigger conversation around the importance of finding your people in business and realising that financial reward comes as a result of looking after them. So with the combination of the two, anything and everything should be possible. But in the words of Claude, we're human and we can be messy. So what happens next? Get ready to fill your creative boots with Claude's game-changing approach to putting the people first in business and addressing the changes that this emotional optimist is throwing out there, such as financial reward in business should not come at the cost to people's mental health, and how to give the creatives the opportunity to thrive. Drumroll, please. This might feel a bit random, and I hope it's not too early in the morning to ask you this, but what's your elevator pitch?
So I would say first, I work in advertising and I take care of all of the people and their experience from the minute they send their CV in until their last day with us and actually beyond.
Wow.
That's what I would say. Yeah. I am not HR. I'm not HR at all, but I take care of the heartbeat of the company. And you know, the title, the role and the title are so unique because of who I work for and with. That's really the deal. That's Gary, my CEO, Gary Vaynerchuk, is such a, he's such a unique alchemist. And not only did he know that was the title he wanted for a role within his company, he knew that was me. If there was someone else that he had met, I don't think it would have been hard unless they were unless they embodied what he thinks I embody.
Yeah.
He would have gone for culture officer, I'm sure.
Oh, that's really interesting. So he asked you or tasked you to build the best human empire in the history of time. No pressure, Claude.
No pressure. Yeah, the greatest human organization in the history of the world is the day we sat down and talked about this role. And I asked him, great, yeah, sign me up. I said, okay, couple questions. One, what are we doing here? And he said, we're going to build the greatest human organization in the history of the world. And I said, amazing, sign me up for that. It's aspirational. I'll never be done. Then I asked him, how do we know if I'm successful? And he said, you will touch every single employee and infuse the agency with empathy. So that's the only job description I have. And then I said, the last thing was all good. And I'm not HR, never done HR. I stayed away from HR. And he said, yeah, you're going to hire a very strong team around you. And those were the three things I needed to know. And everything else I figure out along the way. And I use him, of course, as a sounding board and to take direction from, quote unquote, if I need it. But for the most part, it's completely autonomous. I figure out what I'm doing depending on who I'm speaking with. And I go into my bag of tricks and bags of skills and take it out and, and I work with it. I never roll the dice. I don't take chances with people. Thankfully, I have a very good intuitive sense and it really guides me. So I have a pretty good feeling what to do when someone presents themselves to me and shares something with me. And the other thing, Laura, is that I had been at the agency already for 16 months when I took the role. I had amassed, equity with people and trust with people. And I was already seen as, a go-to honest person, a mentor of such. I mean, I was one of the 5 oldest people when I started. So I had already, built a world there. And so it wasn't such a big dramatic, oh my God, who's Claude? It was, oh yeah, okay, we're going to go to Claude. She's sitting in that seat now.
What was your role before? What was the role that you had beforehand?
I was Senior Vice President of Client Strategy. And I was running the Unilever business, a really, $10 million business. And so that's how I was hired to do that.
Right.
And then I became very disenchanted with advertising again. And I had to listen to my soul at that point. And I told Gary that I was no longer interested in the world of advertising. It didn't matter to me if something was red, blue, purple, or what kind of font it was, or really the copy. It just didn't matter anymore. I had lost the love for it. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I only care about people. I only care about the heartbeat of this place. And that's when it started to emerge. I stayed in my role for a while. I found someone to backfill me. I then resigned, which was not an easy conversation. And as he would tell you, as I was resigning, he was already thinking of how to bring me back and was already thinking of, okay, what's next? I thought maybe I'd build my own coaching program, or maybe I'd finish my, graduate degree in psychotherapy. I knew I would be with people because that's my love. I'm thirsty for that. And it just so happened, he's a smart guy and he called me back.
I love the idea that it's possible to create a career that speaks to your life's work. And I believe that's what you're doing and that's what you've done. And I wanted to ask, was that intentional?
1,000%. It was intentional. So my little secret, which was not so much a secret, is I knew before I told him, before I went to Gary and said, I can't do this anymore, to be overly dramatic, my soul was just like dying doing the work. And so I started working with a coach. I needed someone to help me unpack and unravel this career that had been very, very, very good to me, but that I had no love for anymore, and to help me kind of strip away what was left. And what was left was, I have an unwavering belief in people. As messy as we are, as effed up as we are, as messy as I am, an unwavering belief that we can be better and better and better. And I worked with that person to really, again, kind of strip away everything. And what was left was what you see now. It was just me in my rawest form, which is I'm going to make a massive career pivot, not a life pivot. Yeah. I've always been me, but I'm going to say goodbye to that wonderful career. And the great thing about still working in an agency is I'm fluent in advertising agencies. I spent almost 20 years on the floor. And so I understand the business so well, which I think gives me that head start, that leg up every single day when someone's like, I want to switch teams, project manager, it's just not for me, or whatever it is, the scope or anything that people bring to me within their day, I can pretty much understand and relate to.
That's the only way you can actually do it and understand the moving parts. Because if you've come from it, then you understand actually the gaps and how to move things forward. if you don't understand how people have gotten to that point where they come to you and say, I don't love this, or I don't know where to take this anymore, because you've had that experience, it must open the conversation up in such a special way. And they probably feel immediately heard and equally like we're actually going to get a solution a lot quicker.
I mean, that's a huge, huge part of it because, look, I've had clients that made me cry. I have worked the 15-hour days and nights only to have my manager, drop a big turd all over it the next day before I was presenting to a client. I've had it because that's the nature of this work.
Yeah.
That's the nature of it. And so it definitely, I think, gives me that much more integrity as I go in to be this person for people, as I go into to hold space for people when whatever they're dealing with within the work day. And by the way, it's even outside of the work day, because right now the lines are so fuzzy and blurry. And so for me, it is going, when I actually say I'm in the business of people, I'm in the heart of people. That's really what it is. And I happen to do that within the walls of an advertising agency.
So from your experience, what would you say are like the top pickles that people find themselves in? And I think more specifically creatives.
Yeah. The response is right here at my fingertips. The world of creativity is so subjective. You like black, I like blue, you're the client. Okay. I can do my best to persuade you why black is not a color that your audience is going to gravitate to. But at the end of the day, it's such a it's so subjective.
Yeah.
And so that's something that we have to, I think, first understand what that means and always have an eye on doing your best to share with a client or share with a consumer who's going to see your work, what we want to empathize with them. We want to give them something and help the consumer first and foremost, like feel something, and hopefully help the client not only feel something, but know that whatever we're doing as creatives is going to increase our market share, blah, blah, blah. But that's really important. But the things that creatives mostly come to me with are any kind of limiting belief and any kind of insecurity, or what I would say imposter syndrome. And also something that comes up time and time again is my work is not being seen. Or I showed my manager my work, or my creative director my work, and he or she just ended up doing it. And so what happens there, and I'm very clear on this, I think it's something we need to share and take action on, is I don't think every single person, especially creative, wants to wake up in the morning and manage people. I think there are creatives that want to create.
That really is a no-brainer for me. The minute you ask creatives to manage people, you slightly turn their flame down a bit.
We're hitting nerves every single day because we're asking creatives to take care of people in ways that, to your point, it dims their life. It saps their energy. It just, they throw their arms up in the air. And it took 5 hours away from them, writing that piece of copy, 5 hours away from them ideating on some kind of, whatever. And so that's why you have a me. That's why you have the team that I've created at Vayner, which is called the People and Experience Team. It's not called the HR team. So I have people that scale what I do with the creative department, with the delivery department, with the client service department, because at the end of the day, we need people to have their full hands on deck, whatever their deck is. So anyway, the thing that comes back to your initial question, the thing that I will tell you does make my skin crawl, and I have to find a way to marry this inside with the fact that I don't think creatives really should manage people, is when a creative, especially someone who's new in their career or 4 years in, comes to me and says, my idea was never even looked at, that my director never looked at my work. And that crushes me, that crushes my soul, because that's the exact opposite of what this world is supposed to be. We are teachers and we are students. And if you are in that wonderfully prestigious and needed role of a creative and a creative director, there is some kind of teaching that needs to happen. That's different than managing. Giving feedback, adding direction. Have you thought about it this way? So forth and so on. Those things, those are just requirements for me as humans, by the way, but especially if you're in the field of creatives. It is, and if you're in the field of creative within the construct of an agency, I believe you are there to teach and listen and learn and take action. And that is, I think, a fine line for some creatives that really are like, at some point in their career, like in it to win it. They're in it for whether or not it's, the Cannes Lion, or they're in it to please their spouse. I don't really know, but that's the thing I need to rectify inside my head also.
So in terms of that team spirit, because obviously no one gets to do it on their own. We all know that, you've got to be a team player to a certain extent, but you've equally got to have the right team. So if, like you said, a lot of what you see time and time again is members of a team coming and saying, my idea isn't being acknowledged, or it's not, I'm not being seen, then what happens to the creative, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to get, 8 sides of a story. I certainly want to understand what's going on, but I also want to work with that person who first initially came to me, because what we're looking at there is an insecurity. And to your point a second ago, it's that I'm not important. I'm not valued. I don't matter. That's the crux. That's what I could do. I'm not really going to be able to tell them if their idea can stand the test of time when you're trying to create something for coffee drinkers. Like I'm out of that business now.
Yeah.
But what I can do is talk them through and listen to what's in their way, because maybe the creative director did give them feedback, and that wasn't what they wanted to hear. Maybe, you know what I mean? There's so many different things. Maybe it's that the idea actually was good, and the creative director or the team took pieces of it and added it to a different idea, and the person didn't get acknowledgement. It can be so many things, because again, we're humans and we're complex. So I definitely want to figure out what is going on, so I can best guide the overarching situation. But so much of what I do is about humans. It is about culture, and it is about, how we make each other feel, whether or not that's the macro culture of the world or the microculture of the world inside of Vayner.
The thing that really strikes me from what you've just said is that I think something really important to acknowledge is that when anybody comes to you or your team, they're coming to you with a headline of, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard. The headline is not what you focus on. It's right. The minutiae of, it's the gap. It's the space in which they perhaps haven't, for lots of different really valid reasons, haven't had the opportunity to correlate that headline with. But actually, you got to bring them back down to a place of actually acknowledgement and positivity in order for them to then kickstart in a positive way, like reignite their respect for the creative or understand the bigger picture. And how do you just, like, in terms of your day, because it's pretty time consuming to speak to somebody to really, because by the time you've probably gotten to the sort of the nuts and bolts of really what's peed them off or sort of touched a nerve for them, how much time do you typically, or are you able to spend with people? And like, is there a time frame that how they sort of book it in with you? Because it, people's time is really precious and it takes time to work through something. So how do you divide your time?
So my time is spent for the most part on a 15-minute basis, unless I know I need a half an hour for someone, or I'm doing some kind of, like, let's just use the word, like, couples counseling with team members.
Yeah.
Because none of this is new, let's be honest, they're not new problems. It's not very difficult for me to ascertain what's going on after I hear 3 to 5 minutes. And that's not to say what they want to say for 15 minutes isn't important. I take it in. And then if I'm like, okay, John, you know what? Let's spend 30 minutes on this next Monday.
Yeah.
At least John walks away, Mary, Mark, whomever it is, feeling seen and that I have them.
Yeah.
Because that's all people want at the end of the day. I got you. You're safe with me. I hear you. Validate them. I hear you, and we're going to do this together. And then what I do, the next phone call I make is probably to John or Mary's creative director or the person I'm closest with, one of the department heads, and say, like, hey, I want you to know this is what's going on. I'm going to work with this person. Is there anything you can input in on? Or, hey, can I tell you, this person is really feeling lost and definitely a flight risk. Is this do you want me to go in there with a life preserver, or where are we here? So it's a lot for me. It's a lot of connecting. Not only am I connecting the people, the employees, but I'm having to connect with people to zig and zag to understand, like, what is going on over there. I'm not on that account team anymore. I'm not in that department anymore. So it's for me, it's really being extremely nimble and fluid and being able to, shapeshift every single minute of every single day. And I enjoy that. So for me, it's time well spent. And I want to make sure when I'm working with creatives, it's time well spent. And it's only going to feed their fire, not deplete them.
Do you believe in the art of transformation? What really are you asking them to leave with in order for you to see a significant shift for them? If there's sort of one takeaway for them that you need them to really digest in order to be able to make the necessary sort of shift in their mindset to get over the obstacle, it's almost like my instinct says they've got to want to.
Yeah. They have to have enough self-awareness to understand that the story they're telling themselves is an old story and it just ain't going to work anymore. Because what I'm asking them to do, the transformation I'm asking them to do, and I will walk with them, is to change that story that they're telling themselves. That's change whatever the story they have internalized so that they can be better. They can be their best self here. They can write, the script that they've always wanted to write. They could do, the TikTok about SpaghettiOs that's going to, garner attention. I mean, that's what creatives want. They want their art, their passion to come out of their souls and onto a piece of paper or onto a screen or onto a movie set. That's what they want. And so if I can be a part of their journey in that part of it and help them transform so that they can see that they have a body of evidence, they've already built something. Hey, remember that you are capable of great things because you did it there, and you did it there.
What's something that people don't know about you?
Yeah, I think, if people are intuitive enough, they could tell that I've fallen on my ass about 100,000 times, but I've gotten up 100,001 time. I think that's the thing. I didn't wake up one day and all of a sudden I was chief heart officer. Like, I have a body of work and a lot of, like, scars and bruises that got me here. That I have found some of them I'm very proud of, and some of them I've had to work through some embarrassment and shame about how I got there. But at the end of the day, I can stand here, just turned 52 years old and say, like, I'm really, really stoked on life. And I'm really stoked on the fact that I get to do this every day. And I get to remind people, like, they matter. They matter. Like, we need them in this world. But that's because I had to also not only learn that, I had to embrace that for myself. And that is a journey every day.
And what fills your creative boots?
Music. Music fills my creative boots to such an extent that I wish I could create it. I wish these hands of mine that feel so much knew how to just bang it out on the drums. That's what I wish.
What are you going to play? What are you going to play?
Well, I'm going to play some Cure for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and I might even put a little Foo Fighters in there just because the drums are heavy on that.
Oh my God!
Or
Hawkins. Oh.
the National, the National, like yep. Blood Buzz Ohio, like yes, amazing.
That's what I was thinking. You're sort of the amplifier, the creative heart and soul. That's what it is, actually. You're the creative heartbeat, because actually creativity, obviously we touch so many different things. We span so many different types of people and themes that you have a fiercely creative mind in order to be able to tap in and plug in to all of those elements. Because if it wasn't creative, it would just be one sort of linear road, which obviously, that's the complete opposite. Yeah. Because creativity isn't linear.
No. And that's the archaic version of, we'll just call that human resources, just linear. But this isn't human resources. But I love the idea of the amplifier. It makes a lot of sense. And also, the heart, is our central operating system. Each and every one of us has a heart. And the heart is what, I think keeps cultures alive.
Yeah.
Human beings in all of our versions of ourselves, hopefully our best versions, but we are, as I said in the beginning, we're messy, but human beings, have culture written in the hearts and their minds. And they come into a shared space with one another and try to figure it out the best they can. Because they're all unique. Everyone is doing something slightly different. But when it hums, it's like a cacophony. It's all working well. And that's, we don't hit it out of the park every single day. But more than not, we're figuring it out together. We're finding right together. Because remember, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. We
find it together.
What's your secret weapon?
Man, oh man, my secret weapon is intuition. It's and I think ultimately it just comes down to caring. I just care. I care about people a lot. And I want people to feel better after I hang with them than they did prior. And so whatever that is, whatever that signature is, it is all about what is the kind of heart print or fingerprint that I was able to give them that day. I'm just finished with a massive team that was extremely and wildly successful last year in 2020 and burnt everyone out and allowed for toxicity. And at the end of the day, were they successful? I don't really think so. If the culture on that team is as toxic as it was, but yet they brought in $10 million, yes, of course, did the 10 million help? But at the cost of, no, thank you. So yeah, I do a lot of that, and it's absolute group therapy. What I do though, before I get to that conversation, that first conversation, is I have to have some real transparent conversations with the department heads and then the leaders of that team. Because it's an extremely vulnerable place to come into. So, of course, I come into it with kindness, but with a hell of a lot of candor.
Yeah.
You know, my role is to take care of the people and their experience. And if their experience is shit, then guess who that's on ultimately? Me.
Yeah.
Me, completely. So I do a lot of therapy, counseling with individuals, with the couples, and with the groups. And I always bring someone from my team along because I want them to learn this, and then I want to be able to scoot. Because there's other conversations to be had, you know. But I was listening to what you were saying, and I was thinking, oh yeah, that's alchemy. That's what you do as a producer is, I believe, absolute alchemy, because you have to and then you have to keep the trains on the tracks. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think what we want to remember, especially in the context of an agency, is we all have the same vision. We all want to get to, you know, exceptional work. We want our product to be seen by the masses and for people to feel something and now, of course, share it and whatnot. And in order to do that, we have to remind one another that we have the same goal. We just have, again, that's the well is the vision and the end goal. The faucet is all the minutia. And we have to figure out what is the 1% of things that we A, can control, and B, that we should really spend our time on. And then the 99% of other stuff will get done. So at some point.
So that's a responsibility on us as individuals of how we come to the party. And then if everybody can share that and everybody's able to do their bit, then so much more will have the opportunity to come to life.
Yeah.
But without, it only takes one person to take you off the tracks.
Yes, it only takes one person. And what we want to figure out is what was it about that one person? Was it that it was a subjective call? That they didn't let the other person share their idea and they took up too much space? Like what is it? That they were just a no? They didn't see any possibility. They didn't have an entrepreneurial spirit. All of these things. And it's because I spend all of my time here, it's pretty quick for me to ascertain where's their mindset.
I mean, it's so rare to have the opportunity to have a chat like this from somebody on the inside. Can I ask you one really quick question? From myself as a leader, what should I be looking to bring to my team in order to give them the space to be their best version?
The first and foremost is your authenticity. Like, just don't fake it. Be exactly who you are. What you see is what you get. Goes a hell of a long way. Being vulnerable and like a human is super important. And that's not to be self-deprecating. That's to remind whomever that is, like, you get it. The validation is so important. You get it. You've been there. You understand what it's like to be just starting out in your career or whatever that's like. And then ultimately, like, how we listen to people and what we do with that information is extraordinarily important. Listening so that they feel heard, not listening so that your ego gets met because woohoo, you know. So being authentic, being vulnerable and transparent, and listening so that they feel heard and that you can do something with that.
All of those three things make perfect sense.
Awesome.
Claude, thanks so much. Honestly, I really, it's a huge insight to you and also what you do. It's a very special conversation to have. So, yeah, nice one.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Nice one.
Thanks for spending your time with me.
Thanks for joining us this week. If you like what you just heard, follow us, give us a review and send it to a friend. Say hello on socials at Creative Blood Agency and use the hashtag CreativeBloodPod. This episode was produced by Josie Coulter, engineered and mixed by Ben Beheshti, artwork designed by Sarah Thompson, music by Ben Tarrant Brown, and presented by me, Laura Conway.